In this video, I'm going to show you step by step on how to change the front struts in a Mercury Mariner, Ford Escape, and Mazda Tribute. Those three SUVs are all basically the same. Not much changes between 02 and 2012. I'll put links in the description below on all the parts and stuff I use. This particular brand I bought off Amazon. I've used these before on other Ford Escapes. Put this brand also on some Ford Edges, and no real complaints on it. Relatively inexpensive, and all those links will be in the description below. So we'll get started by jacking up the driver's side, getting the wheel off, taking a look to see what we've got. Need to spray some rust penetrant on all the bolts. Depending on what state you're in, if you're in Florida, you probably don't know what rust penetrant is on bolts because you guys don't really have any salt or snow that eats away at your vehicles. So we'll get it jacked up, get that wheel off, see how rusty these bolts are, and see if we can get them broke loose fairly easily. By the end of the video, you should have enough confidence to be able to do this job yourself, save yourself a lot of time and money. And you'll be using a 19mm socket to get these lug nuts off. So these bolts are fairly rusty, so I'm going to spray some penetrating oil on the nuts and the threads before I try to take them off. Let it soak for about 30 minutes. You also have a nut right here that's going to have to come off with this stabilizer link. If that's rusty, spray that down too. So spray these all down, we'll let them soak for a little bit, and then try to break them loose. You're going to need an 18mm socket and a breaker bar. We'll see if we can get this loose. I don't want to take this all the way off. I just want to make sure it gets loose before I take all this other stuff off. If for some reason this breaks or I can't get it loose, there's no sense in taking this other stuff off. So the top one is loose. We'll try the bottom. And looks like this is going to come undone. There's a lot of rust on here, so I was a little worried. Now that I know I can get the bolts out, I'm going to go ahead and take off this ABS bracket and this flexible brake line. And then we'll go ahead and do the stabilizer link. So to get this brake line out of the way, you have a clip right here. You can simply grab the clip and pull it straight out. And now you're going to push the brake line down and out of the bracket. And now we have a 10mm screw right here that's holding on this ABS wire. We'll go ahead and take this off. And now the ABS bracket is loose as well. So now we need to take the nut off of this stabilizer link. And this is not original, so this is a 15mm. If you have your original stabilizer link, it's going to be a 14mm nut. And it's also going to have a hex key on the end to stop the stud from spinning. Otherwise you'll need to put an open end wrench back here to stop that stud from spinning while you take the nut off. Now before you pull the stabilizer link out, you can see that the threaded shaft on there is a little crooked after I loosened it. I put a bottle jack underneath here, and you'll be able to pump this up just a little bit to help get your strut out and get that stabilizer link out. Now under the hood you're going to have four 14mm nuts to take off. And now you can go ahead and finish taking the nuts and the bolts out of the lower mount. If you need to tap on the bolts to get them out, just make sure that you use a rubber hammer and not a steel hammer, unless you've got new bolts to replace them with. Once your bolts are out, you may have to tap on your strut just a little bit with a rubber hammer. It'll pop out of place. This will not fall out of place or go anywhere. Just let it sit there on top of your bottle jack. And your strut will come right out. So now it's time to install the new strut. Make sure you take the nuts off the top of your strut. It should come with new ones. We'll put the stabilizer link through its hole and then put the strut up through the fender well. Once you have the stud up through the fender well holes, go ahead and put at least one nut on there to hold your strut in place. And then with a little bit of wiggling, you go ahead and reinstall your strut mount bolts. And with the jack underneath, you may have to raise or lower to line your holes up. I'm going to tighten the two nuts on this lower mount, and I highly suggest you put a little bit of blue Loctite on these threads. And when you put these on, you're going to want to torque them to 85 foot-pounds. So if you have a torque wrench, you're going to set it to 85 foot-pounds for these two lower bolts. Now we can go ahead and remount the brake line. Just going to kind of pull it down, through, up, and there's two little notches so you know that it's in place. And then go ahead and put its keeper back in place. And now we have the ABS sensor mount. Put that back in place along with the 10mm screw. And now we need to get that nut on the stabilizer link, and I highly recommend a little bit of blue Loctite on these threads as well. Then we're going to tighten this stabilizer link nut to 35 foot-pounds. Now we're going to go ahead and tighten the upper mount nuts to 35 foot-pounds as well. And just for a note, make sure you check your torque specs because these vary a little bit between model. I've seen a variance in about 10 foot-pounds. It's not much, but there is a little bit of difference. And we're going to go ahead and remount the wheel. And now go ahead and torque your lug nuts. Aluminum wheels in this vehicle are 100 foot-pounds. If you have steel, they're generally around 60 foot-pounds. Double check your owner's manual or look it up on the internet before torquing your lug nuts. Congratulations on changing your own struts. Saved yourself a lot of time and money by not taking it to a mechanic. Learned a little bit about your vehicle as well. I highly recommend you go take your vehicle in for an alignment. Once you move the struts like this, it's most likely your vehicle is going to track one way or another. It's best to have a four-wheel alignment after you replace your struts. Hope you guys found the video helpful and informational, and thanks for watching.